Hey everyone, and welcome back to Whispers from the Void. I'm your host, Bobby, and tonight I've got a chilling story for you, sent in by a listener who wishes to remain anonymous. It's a tale that weaves together the hardships of life, the loneliness of the graveyard, and a bond that stretches beyond the veil of death. He calls this story, Joking with the Dead. So, settle in, turn down the lights, and let's head to a small, forgotten town where the earth holds more than just secrets. I'm a single guy, just turned 24, born into a family that's always been just scraping by. To say we were poor would be an understatement. Our house, a rickety old clapboard structure on the edge of town, has been on the county's condemnation list for years. Officials from some state housing program came by a couple of times, took pictures, made notes, and talked about a grant for substandard housing rehabilitation. That was 2 years ago. We haven't heard a word since. I'm a gravedigger. It's not exactly a popular career choice, especially for someone my age. It's tough work. In the summer, you're breaking your back trying to get a shovel through sun-baked clay, sometimes hitting a boulder that turns a 4-hour job into an all-day ordeal. In the winter, you're digging in freezing mud, the hole filling with icy water as you go. Your feet numb inside your boots. That's what got my dad in the end. He died of a nasty tetanus infection. He was digging in one of the older, waterlogged sections of the cemetery when a shard of bone from an unmarked grave sliced his leg open. The constant exposure to mud and decay did the rest. It's a physical job, and it wears you down. Finding old remains is part of the territory. The cemetery's been here since the 1800s, and not every grave was marked with stone. Just last month, my buddy Manny and I were digging a fresh plot when my shovel hit something hard. It was a human forearm, from the elbow down. We quickly reburied it deeper along the side of the new grave, out of sight, so we wouldn't spook the grieving family. That night, something strange happened to Manny. He was staying at his cousin's place and suddenly started screaming in his sleep. His cousin said he was thrashing around, shouting, "Give me back my hand! Give me back my hand!" Over and over. This went on for 3 days. He had a raging fever and wouldn't stop having nightmares. His family is real religious, so they had their pastor come and say a prayer over him, asking for forgiveness for disturbing a lost soul's rest. After that, the fever broke. A few weeks later, Manny and I got another call. A 16-year-old girl, a junior at the local high school, had died. She lost control of her car on a wet road and hit a massive oak tree. It was a Thursday afternoon, which meant she'd be buried on what the old-timers call a graveyard Friday. I don't know if it was Friday the 13th or anything, but burying someone on a Friday, especially a young person, always feels heavier, spookier. And this girl, Sarah, was the town's sweetheart. She was beautiful, smart, kind, the whole package. When you have a tragedy like that, involving a young, innocent girl, you get the dark side of local folklore bubbling up. Some of the old stories say that taking something from the grave of a virgin can bring you power for protection, for luck, even for dark magic. The thing we gravediggers really worried about, though, was the ugliest rumor of all, that some sick individuals believe violating the corpse of a virgin can grant them supernatural strength or invincibility. It sounds insane, but people believe crazy things. Because of that fear, it became a local tradition for the family to have someone watch over a fresh grave like that for 7 nights straight. The evening of the burial was cold, the kind of damp chill that gets right into your bones. After we'd finished filling the grave, I noticed my ankle was throbbing. I'd scraped it on something sharp while I was down in the hole. I looked down and saw blood seeping through my sock. The cut was just above my ankle bone. Peering back into the dusk-filled hole before we finished, I saw what did it. A pale, curved piece of bone, probably a rib from another forgotten burial. I quickly pocketed it to toss out later, and finished the job. Manny and I got paid by Sarah's family, who also gave us a thermos of coffee and some sandwiches. As soon as I got home, I went to wash the grime off my legs. I took off the bloody sock and cleaned the cut. The money from a digging job is decent, but it's not steady. People don't die on a schedule, except during that first wave of COVID. That was a brutal time. We were digging every single day in a separate, quarantined section of the cemetery. My dad was still alive then. He was strong as an ox. He worked right through the whole pandemic and never got sick. I was sitting on my porch, nursing my sore ankle and looking out over the field across the road. Beyond the field, I could just make out the faint glow of lanterns at the cemetery. That was the first shift of the grave watchers for Sarah. I could imagine them sitting there, drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, telling stories to keep the fear at bay. They were probably terrified. I mean, they wouldn't even need to see a ghost. The sound of a twig snapping or the rustle of dry leaves would be enough to make them jump out of their skin. There were 4 of them. If it was just one guy, he'd probably run home, pissing his pants the whole way. My eyes felt heavy, so I went inside to my room to crash. I glanced at the clock on the wall, 11 p.m. I'd just started to drift off, hovering in that space between sleep and wakefulness, when I heard it. A voice, a woman's voice, a soft whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Give it back. To me! I sat bolt upright, my heart pounding. I scanned every corner of my small room. Nothing, nobody. Give it back. The voice was louder this time, more insistent. I felt a chill run down my spine. I'd shut and locked my window before I lay down, but now it was wide open, the tattered curtain fluttering in the night breeze. I got up, looked outside. Nothing but darkness. I slammed the window shut and locked it again. Then, I heard a new sound. A soft creak. It was coming from my old wooden wardrobe, not from outside, but from inside the room. I froze, staring at it. Why did it sound like the door was trying to open from within? A mix of fear and curiosity propelled me forward. I reached out a trembling hand and slowly pulled the door open. Creak. With both doors open, I peered inside. Just my few hanging shirts and a pile of jeans. No animal, nothing out of place. But then my eyes fell on a thin, grimy piece of cloth hanging from a hook in the corner. My mind instantly flashed back to the cemetery. It was the strip of fabric I'd used to wrap the rib bone I found in Sarah's grave. The bone I'd meant to throw away. Why was it in here? Did my mom or my sister Amy put it there when tidying up? No, that made no sense. It was late, they were asleep. I slammed the wardrobe doors shut and turned the little key in the lock. Shaken, I got back into bed and pulled the covers up to my chin. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to force myself to sleep. Give it back to me. The voice was clear as day, sharp and angry, and it was undeniably coming from inside the wardrobe. That was it. I was more pissed off than scared now. I threw off the covers, marched over to the wardrobe, and yanked the doors open again. My breath caught in my throat. My entire body started to shake with a terror so profound it felt like my heart was going to explode. Because hanging there, suspended by that dirty strip of cloth, was a head. Just a head. With no body. It was a woman's head, with long, matted black hair and skin as pale as chalk. Her eyes, dark and hollow, were fixed on me. Give me back what is mine, the head whispered, its lips barely moving. Before I could even scream or ask what it meant, it was gone. The wardrobe was empty again, except for that single, sinister strip of cloth, a burial shroud tie. Was that what it was? Did it belong to that head? I could have sworn I'd thrown it in the trash can by the pump where I washed my leg. I had to hide this. I couldn't let anyone know. What would they think? Joe the gravedigger, scared of the very things he puts in the ground. Even when there were no burials, Manny and I would hang out at the cemetery. Sometimes, families would come from out of state to visit a relative's grave and want to hire someone to clean it up, reset the headstone, or plant some flowers. It was a way to pick up a little extra cash. How long are we gonna do this, man? Manny asked one day, staring out at the rows of tombstones. We can't be doing this till we're old, can we? I don't know, Manny, I sighed. What else am I gonna do? You know I dropped out of high school. A GED doesn't get you far. This is all I've got. It's a living. We just gotta take it one day at a time. Maybe one of us will get a lucky break. A lucky break? In what? The exciting world of professional dirt removal? Hey, you never know, I said, trying to sound more optimistic than I felt. We just gotta be grateful for what we have. As long as we keep working, the money will come. Yeah, I hope so, Manny mumbled. Amen. Hope the folks 6 feet under hear your prayers and send some business our way. Don't say that, man, I shot back. You think they're in any position to help us? Most of them are probably screaming for mercy, trying to deal with their own problems. How would you know? You been there? We go there every day, idiot. You're just not listening. Manny's gaze drifted to the fresh mound of earth that was Sarah's grave. It's such a shame, he said softly. A girl as beautiful as Sarah, Gone just like that. She was so young, man. Never even got a chance to really live. Yeah, I agreed. She was smart too. Always friendly to everyone. No wonder every guy in school had a crush on her. But she was focused on her studies. Wanted to be a lawyer, her parents said. But I guess fate has other plans. It's weird though, Manny mused. You'd think there'd be some ghost stories by now. You know, a young girl dies tragically, buried on a Friday. You'd expect her spirit to be haunting the place. The restless spirit of Highway 9 or something. Doesn't always work like that, Manny, I said. Sarah was a good person. Good people get prayed for. They find their peace. Manny just nodded, and we fell silent. A breeze rustled through the crepe myrtle trees, carrying their sweet, heavy scent, the official perfume of the cemetery. Manny was lost in his own thoughts, probably imagining what could have been with Sarah, the girl he'd admired from afar but never had the courage to talk to. He knew he wasn't in her league. And me? My mind was on that burial shroud and the headless ghost it belonged to. It had to be a restless spirit, searching for that missing piece of its burial cloth. It was still in my wardrobe. I couldn't return it. Sarah's grave was now on top of where I found it. What was I supposed to do if that ghost came back for it? Time slipped by. It was the 7th and final night of the vigil for Sarah's grave. There were 3 of us this time, me and 2 older guys from the neighborhood, Mr. Junet and Mr. Ixon. You know, Mr. Junet said, his voice low. Young Roy, who was here last night. He said Sarah's ghost came to him. Don't know the details, but he said she seemed angry with him for some reason. Now the boy's at home with 103-degree fever. We could use the extra hand, Mr. Ixon added, looking at me. It's not right, just the 2 of us old-timers. We can't keep up with your stories, kid. He winked. I just smiled. I was still a kid compared to them. Sure, I'll stay, I said, as long as I'm getting paid. Of course, Mr. Junet chuckled. This is a job, after all. Guarding a grave. Better than guarding an empty warehouse where you can at least watch TV. Out here, all you can do is watch the shadows. It's mostly for peace of mind anyway, I said. To stop anyone with bad ideas. It's not like anyone's going to steal anything. The dead don't get buried with their valuables around here. Not like in those old movies, huh, mister? Ixon said. But you hear stories, you know. People stealing things from graves. You ever hear about people stealing burial shrouds, Joe? What's that all about? And what about those psychos who dig up bodies just to, you know, I added, lowering my voice. It's twisted. The way I heard it, Mr. Junet explained. A piece of a shroud is supposed to protect your house or your property from thieves. Some say it can be used for black magic, to curse a rival's business or something. But the necrophilia thing, that's pure evil. They do it for power, for invincibility. It has to be a specific night, with a specific kind of victim, like Sarah. That's why we're here. It's a terrifying thought. A man getting his power from violating the dead. His story sent a shiver down my spine. As midnight approached, we all started to feel the fatigue. We stretched out on a tarp near the grave, trying to get comfortable without falling asleep. I lay on my back, watching the moon play peekaboo through the leaves of the big weeping willow nearby. An owl hooted from a high branch, its mournful call echoing through the silent stones. Its eyes glowed like 2 red coals in the darkness, staring down at us. And then I saw her, standing right under the branch where the owl was perched. A figure in a long white dress that brushed the ground. Her long hair hid her face, but I knew, somehow, that she was watching us. The moonlight was too fragmented for me to see her clearly. I heard a faint cracking sound, like a branch breaking. I tried to reach over and grab the arm of Tresno, the teenager sitting next to me, but my hand wouldn't move. It was like I was paralyzed, trapped in my own body. I tried to shout, but my voice was stuck in my throat. All I could do was stare, my eyes wide with terror. The female figure glided silently towards Sarah's grave. A faint, misty vapor seemed to rise from her body, growing and swirling until it formed a cone of white smoke. Then, it plunged down, sinking right through the packed earth of the grave. And just like that, the cemetery was still again. The paralysis left me as suddenly as it had come. My body went limp, and I could finally feel Tresno's arm next to mine. Joe? You okay, man? He whispered, sounding nervous. Yeah, I'm fine, I lied, deciding not to tell him what I'd just seen. I didn't want him bolting and leaving us here. I knew Sarah's family. Her father, Mr. Henderson, was a good man. I remembered visiting their house with my own dad when he was still alive. Sarah was a senior then, studying for her final exams. Her parents were so proud, talking about how she was going to go to college, study law, all those dreams buried 6 feet under with their daughter. Since the funeral, Mr. Henderson barely left the house. He used to be out in his yard every evening, but now, there was just silence. The wind picked up, and the sky grew dark. It looked like a storm was rolling in. We checked the ropes on the small pop-up tent we'd set up, but the wind was getting stronger. If it rains, we're going to have to take cover in the tool shed, Mr. Junet said, his voice full of anxiety. The tool shed was a small, cinder block building where they kept the shovels, the lawnmower, and the casket dolly. The thought of being cooped up in that cramped, musty place gave me the creeps. I once had a weird experience there myself. It was about 2 a.m., and I was walking past on my way to the river when I heard a loud crash from inside the shed. Crash! There were no other buildings around. I crept closer, and I could have sworn I saw the metal casket dolly inside, rocking back and forth on its own, banging against the wall. The whole shed was vibrating slightly, like a small earthquake. I got out of there fast. The next day, I heard that the men who had used the dolly for a burial the day before had the same experience. It had started moving on its own right after they laid the casket in the grave. "We'll be fine in there," I said, trying to sound brave. "It's better than getting soaked. We just need to make it till morning." But the storm never came. The clouds parted, the wind died down, and the moon shone brightly, keeping us company until the first hint of dawn. The vigil was over. Our duty was done, and thankfully nothing we had feared came to pass. The next morning, Mr. Henderson gave each of us an envelope with some cash inside. It was enough to help my mom with groceries for the week. "So, what'd you get?" Manny asked later as we sat on my porch, eating some leftovers I'd brought from home. "Old man Henderson is loaded, right?" "I bet it was a nice chunk of change." "It was decent," I said. "The important thing is, nothing bad happened. I mean, there were a few weird things. I think I saw Sarah's ghost go back into her grave last night, but who knows? Some people say a spirit hangs around for 40 days. Others say it's just a demon tricking you. I don't know what to believe." I told him about the figure I'd seen. "Did you see her face?" Manny asked eagerly. "Was she still beautiful, or was she, changed?" "Couldn't see, man. It was too dark, and honestly, I was too busy freaking out about the storm that never came. Too bad I wasn't there," he sighed. "Sometimes I still miss her, Just seeing her around was enough to make my day. I don't know why I liked her so much. I just never had the guts to say anything." "Well," I said gently, "I guess that means she wasn't the one for you, man. She was called home early. Maybe she didn't want a life of struggle with a guy like you." Manny just shrugged. "Yeah, maybe you're right." As we were talking, 2 men we didn't know walked up my driveway. "Excuse me," one of them said. "You're the gravediggers here, right? We're from over in Miller's Crossing. We had a death in the family this morning. We need a plot dug for this afternoon. Can you 2 handle it on short notice?" "We're your guys," Manny said, his eyes lighting up. "As long as the price is right." "Don't worry about that," the man said, handing Manny an envelope. "Here's a deposit. Call this number when you're done." The man pointed to a spot in the middle section of the cemetery. "Just one thing," I said. "You need to make sure you maintain the grave. If no one visits or tends to it for a few months, especially with the rainy season coming, it could get overgrown and lost. Someone else might end up buying the plot." "Oh, right," the man said. "In that case, maybe you 2 could look after it for us. We'll pay you for the upkeep, of course. Just name your price." Manny and I looked at each other and nodded. Just like that. Another job. A blessing out of nowhere. God really does work in mysterious ways. First, the money from Mr. Henderson. Now this. "That's a lot of money, Joe," my mom said that evening, her eyes wide as I handed her the bills. "Did you get a big job?" "Yeah, Mom. I got my share for the grave watch for Sarah, and then Manny and I got a new digging job today for a family from out of town. They're paying us to maintain the grave, too." "Oh, thank God," she sighed. I never wanted this life for you, Joe. Following in your father's footsteps, it breaks my heart, but I guess it was meant to be for our family." Your grandfather, your father, and now you. All I ask is that you don't complain. It's noble work, in its own way. In the old country, the whole village would dig a grave together. Here in the city, people just pay someone like you to do it. I won't, Mom. I'll keep at it, I promised. As long as we can eat and I can help with Amy's school fees. I want her to finish high school. Maybe even go to college. College? Mom laughed softly. We can barely afford her school supplies now, and you're thinking of college, but who knows? If she's smart enough to get a scholarship, maybe it's possible. Amen to that, Mom. Amen, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. Just then, Amy came out of her room, still in her pajamas from her evening prayers. She walked right up to me and held out her hand. So, where is it? She demanded. Where's what? I asked, playing dumb. The money. I heard you telling Mom you got a big payday. So, fork it over. Were you eavesdropping during your prayers? That's not very holy of you, I teased. Whatever. Your brother's being generous, Mom said, handing Amy a $10 bill. Now, don't spend it all on candy and ice cream. You'll get a sore throat. Amy beamed, kissed the bill, and ran back to her room. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Mom's expression grew serious. Joe, she said quietly, I feel something strange in your room. When I was in there earlier, I heard something moving inside your wardrobe. She looked at me, her eyes narrowed. What's wrong? Why are you so quiet? It's nothing, Mom, I stammered. I've heard it too. I just figured it was a mouse or some, a restless spirit that followed me home from the cemetery. Just curious about our family. Don't talk like that, Joe. You sound like one of those TV ghost hunters. The last thing we need is to get involved with things from another world, she said, her voice sharp. Then she looked at me intently. Did you bring something back with you? From one of the graves? I just shook my head, but I knew she didn't believe me. My mom has always had a kind of sixth sense about things. Her tone softened. You know, Joe, I was thinking, when are you going to bring a nice girl home to meet me? The boy next door, he's already engaged. They're getting married next year. Oh, Mom, not this again, I groaned. I'm not thinking about that right now. I need to help you and make sure Amy finishes school first. The truth was, our finances were always a roller coaster. I felt bad for my mom. She worked herself to the bone, washing clothes for our neighbors to earn a few extra dollars. It wasn't every day, and in the rainy season, business was slow because nothing would dry. She was a tough woman, my mom. I'd watch her carry heavy laundry baskets down the treacherous, rocky path to the river, a task most women her age couldn't handle. I could see the exhaustion on her face. She started yawning. Amy had already turned off the TV and gone to bed. Mom did a final check on the doors and windows. There's some leftover chili in the pot if you get hungry, she said. I'm going to bed. Soon, the house was quiet. I picked up an old horror novel to pass the time until I felt sleepy. I was deep into a story when I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. The distinct click and creak of a door opening. It was coming from my room. Slowly, I turned my head. My bedroom door was ajar. My body went rigid. It felt like an invisible force was pulling me up from my chair, compelling me to walk toward the room. It's her, I thought. The ghost from the wardrobe. She's back. I stepped into the room. Nothing seemed out of place, but I felt like I wasn't in control of my own body anymore. Creak. The wardrobe door swung open on its own. My legs started to tremble so badly I thought I was going to collapse. Creak. The second door opened. Strangely, I saw nothing terrifying inside, just my clothes. My body moved closer on its own, my hand reaching out to push aside a pair of hanging jeans. There was nothing behind them. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, and then I turned around. She was standing right in front of me, the woman with the long hair and the white gown that pulled around her feet. It was the same face from the wardrobe, the same ghost that had been terrorizing me. You still haven't returned what is mine, Joe, she said, her voice a chilling whisper in the silent room. Are you deliberately playing games with me? I can't give it back, I managed to say, my voice shaking. The place where I found it, it's buried now, under a new grave. I didn't mean to take it. I just needed something for my cut. The spirit was silent, her dark eyes staring into mine. I'm sorry, I pleaded. Please, just leave me alone. Take your shroud tie and go." "That is not possible, Joe," she hissed. "As long as that piece of me is with you, as long as you possess it, I will always be here. I will be your companion." Companion? The word was so absurd that it shocked me out of my fear. A companion? How can I, a living man, be friends with you? A ghost? For some reason, I could suddenly speak clearly, as if I were talking to a normal person. "Because you hold my shroud tie, you can see me, you can hear my voice. Whenever you call my name, I will be near you. Our worlds, though different, are now bound together." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "My name is Eleanor Vance. My body was buried in that cemetery decades ago. I had forgotten the world of the living. But when you took that tie, you disturbed my rest. You forced me to search for what was mine." She then told me that the new grave, Sarah's grave, was placed over the plot of a distant relative of hers. Generations removed, sunlight streamed through my window. Mom must have opened the curtains. Later that day, I was back at the cemetery with Manny, killing time. We were talking about nothing in particular, and as always, the conversation eventually turned to our grim futures. Manny told me about a neighbor of his who everyone suspected had made a deal with the devil. "I heard he did some kind of ritual with a ghost," Manny said, his voice low. "People have seen a shrouded figure walking around his property at night. Why do they think that? Did he suddenly get rich or something?" "Yeah, pretty much," Manny said. "He used to be a driver for a local taxi company, barely making ends meet. Then, all of a sudden, he buys his own cab. Now he owns a whole fleet of 5 cars. He's like a mini mogul. It happens so fast, you know? And the rumors started after 4 different people died in mysterious accidents, all right near his property line. Did you see her face?" Manny's earlier question about Sarah's ghost echoed in my mind. "What do you think she looks like?" Manny asked, pulling me from my thoughts. He was talking about the ghost his neighbor supposedly summoned. "Who, Eleanor?" I blurted out, then caught myself. "Who's Eleanor?" Nothing. Just a name from a book I was reading," I lied quickly. "I don't know, man. What do you think a ghost looks like?" "Probably ugly as sin," he said with a shudder. "But what if? What if you could marry one? People say you can marry spirits, and they'll make you rich. You want to marry a ghost, Manny?" I chuckled. "Hey, I'm just saying," he said defensively. "I bet they can make themselves look however they want. They could probably look prettier than any living woman. You wouldn't have to look at their real, rotted face, but would you be willing to pay the price?" His words stuck with me. Marrying a spirit. Could I do that? Could I marry Eleanor? She could make herself beautiful, and I wouldn't be alone anymore. But what was the price? I remembered a story my mother told me about my own father. Her name was Delilah. She wasn't a classic beauty, a bit of a plain face, dark skin, nothing special. She was 27 and desperate to get married. For some reason, she set her sights on my father. She told her family that she had to have him, and her father, Jed, who owned the biggest salvage yard in the county, came up with a plan. One night, my dad had just finished dinner when Jed showed up at his door. Dad was surprised. He didn't even know the man. Jed said the winch on his well had broken, and asked if Dad, known for being handy, could come fix it the next morning. It was a setup. When Dad got there, he could see that the winch hadn't just broken. It looked like it had been deliberately pried off the wall. Delilah was there, of course. My father was a simple man. He'd never been with a woman before. Delilah was all over him, her touch and her sweet words making his head spin. Before he knew what was happening, she had led him into her bedroom. Dad was so mesmerized he didn't even think about the risk of her father walking in on them. He just followed, and the devil laughed. Having successfully lured another soul into sin, Dad was trapped. Delilah pretended she was pregnant, and he, being an honorable man, agreed to marry her. Jed was all too happy to have the wedding. He had his own plans for his new son-in-law. After the wedding, Dad quit his job as a gravedigger. Jed set him up with a new truck, expensive clothes, and a role at the salvage yard. For the first time in his life, Dad had money, and he had a wife who catered to his every desire. 6 months into the marriage, the weirdness began. One night, Dad was out back filling a water trough from the well. He just hauled up the first bucket when he felt a presence behind him. He turned and saw a creature standing there. It was massive, over 7 feet tall, covered in coarse, black hair with a gaping mouth full of jagged teeth. Dad dropped the bucket. His voice was gone. All he could do was point a trembling finger at the monster as it grinned at him. Who are you?" Dad finally choked out. The creature's voice was a low growl that seemed to shake the ground. "You are the man who has been enjoying what is mine. I have come to collect your life as payment." Dad stumbled backward, cornered against the well. "What are you talking about? I haven't taken anything from you." He spotted a pickaxe lying on the ground nearby. "Jedediah, your father-in-law," the beast snarled. "He promised me your soul as a sacrifice. Tonight is the night he must pay his debt to my master, the Lord of Barren Lives." The creature lunged, its hairy hand reaching for my father's throat. But Dad was a gravedigger. He was fast and strong, and he knew how to handle tools. In a split second, he snatched the pickaxe. Just as the creature's claws were about to close around his neck, he swung it with all his might. The sharp point slammed into the creature's arm. "Rah! You will pay for that, human!" it roared, the sound deafening. The monster lunged again, but Dad was quicker. He swung the pickaxe a second time, a vicious arc that connected squarely with the side of the beast's head. It let out a piercing shriek and staggered back, clutching its head as thick, green blood oozed between its fingers. It gave Dad one last look of pure hatred before disappearing into the darkness. Shaking, Dad ran back into the house. And there, in the kitchen, he found Jed on the floor, clutching his head, blood pouring from a massive gash on his temple. Delilah and her mother were trying to help him, looking confused and scared. Jed looked up, and his eyes met my father's. In that moment, Dad saw not the eyes of his father-in-law, but the burning, hateful eyes of the monster. He finally understood. Jed's wealth, the salvage yard, all of it. It was from a deal with the devil, and my father was supposed to be the payment. After that night, everything changed. Dad left Delilah. He never spoke to her or her family again. He went back to his parents, back to his old life. He learned that everyone in town already suspected Jed was into black magic. They called my dad Dead Man walking behind his back when he married Delilah. Jed never got to offer another sacrifice. A few weeks later, the news came that he had died in a fiery car crash. His truck had gone off a cliff into a ravine that the locals called the body dump, a place where people said mobsters used to get rid of their problems. Everyone knew it wasn't an accident. Jed's debt had come due. And that's where his story ends. A chilling account of two generations of gravediggers, each haunted in their own way, one by a lonely spirit seeking connection, the other by the very real demons of human greed. It makes you wonder what our anonymous storyteller will do with his ghostly companion, Eleanor. Thank you all for listening to Whispers from the Void. Join us next time for another journey into the dark. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep listening for the whispers.